Hello guys, my name is Raul Aparicio and I'm going to cover how to do outdoor custom content using Maya for Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Um, the first thing is I wanted to mention a few websites that have helped me out a lot. The first one is Duke64Nukem.com, which has several tutorials on how to do basically the same thing I'm going to show you. So I just thought I'd give these guys credit because they have a bunch of really sweet tutorials. And the other thing is the Steam Turok page, which has a lot of information. Guys like Snake, Plinskin, Sidearms, and Kaiser himself have posted a lot of really, really good information. Okay, um, so with that, I wanted to talk about what this tutorial is going to be about. So first, I'm going to show you the manual way of exporting this thing, as well as the the folder structures, and then I'm going to show you how to use my handy script to just quickly export stuff out. Okay, so if you find your Turok install folder, I have a shortcut here to get to it quicker, and find uh, game KPF, and you copy and paste it and rename it to .zip. And then you just want to extract it. And this is a cool folder to check out because it has all the content for the game. If you're trying to reverse engineer something, this is probably the place you want to start at. You know, and what I've done is I renamed this game folder to unpacked. So every time I have doubts, I just go and check out the other folders and and grab the stuff from there. So the next thing is basically a quick overview of how to actually export a file from Maya so we can convert it into a Turok asset, right? So to starters, first of all, iTech, Turok runs in a very old version of iTech. It looks like, and in the past when I used iTech, material definitions were very important, and Turok also has that. Except Maya makes it very difficult to export stuff because it doesn't put underscores. I mean, it doesn't put forward slashes, instead it does underscores, and it's something that was like killing me because I didn't know why things weren't working. But I figured it out, so that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. So first of all, it's looking for the materials folder, and it's looking for the file called blockout, which is your material file. And inside of blockout, there's a definition called gray, right? So if we look, I have a folder here called materials, and there's a file called blockout, and the kmat, you simply make a text document and just save it as the kmat. Then inside of here, there's gray, right? And there's also red. Now, that doesn't mean that all your textures are going to live in this. This is just for having different variations of the same texture. So if you're making hallways, in your hallway floor and wall material will probably be two separate materials, right? But if your wall has different variations, then they can live under this, and then you can just swap them out. If you look in the texture editor of the engine, you can swap out the material slots to see what the other textures are using. Okay, so now that I explained that part, the other important thing is the texture folder, because this is where the textures live. So if we look at this guy, this is where it's telling it how to render your material. So when you look at textures, it says textures, text underscore gray, which is a texture I made, and I put it right here in the textures, right? And over here are some of the other textures from the game, as well as other stuff I've been testing with, and You can extract the textures from the game, and you can color paint them differently and put them here, and then the engine will recognize them right away, right? So so now if I go to Maya and basically open up the hypershade, I already have some materials here, but I'm gonna make a new one. Uh, the material type that you choose is not really important, because the Turok engine all it cares for is the path of the name of the material, and and really that's it. That's all it looks for. So now, if I were to rename this materials example 01, what's gonna happen is it's not gonna let me have the forward slashes, right? Which is a shame because if you were to export this out, you need the object file, the obj, and the obj generates an MTML file, MTL, sorry, and the names are wrong. So what you have to do is go in by hand and tweak them, and that's just painful, right? If you're using Maya, I don't know if it's the same way in the other programs. So what I've done is basically created a script that changes all this stuff, right? But first I want to show you what I mean. So if I were to basically name this, assign this material, and also maybe just put a texture in it so we can visually see what's happening. Uh, right, and just go to color, file, and for the file list, let's pick one of these guys. Maybe this one, right? So it's different from the ones I've been doing. So so if I go ahead, and basically grab the UVs and tell them to be unitized, it puts them all right there, nice and neat. So then I can kind of see what this thing looks like, right? But if I were to export this out now, I'm just gonna. I made a under. I have a. I have two different roots. Excuse me. I have two different directories. I have the install folder, and I have my own source modding Turok folder where I pretty much save everything, and then I just copy over as I'm working. You don't have to do it like that, but that's how I do it. So this Turok modding is a completely different folder, and here I have a thing called demo, and we're just gonna name it demo piece. So the thing now is if we open that folder, demo, right? If you open the obj itself, what Turok is looking for is this use MTL. And this is not even the right name of the material. See, so Lambert 2FG is actually the name of the surface shader of the shading network. I mean, the shading engine. I'm sorry. So what you have to do is make sure that this is what you name in materials. Um, uh, let's name it materials example 01. Well, this thing name is 02, but it's okay. So maybe this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna name it material 02. I mean example 02, just to keep it consistent. So now if I were to export this out, um, and go back to the demo folder. See, now you see that it's actually, this is what the Turok engine is gonna look for when it converts your OBJ. So then it's gonna look at that, and then immediately it's gonna go in and try to find the MTL. And here's the other problem I run into, which was even more frustrating because What happened was that even though this piece is not using the other materials, for some reason they get assigned, and I don't know if this is a thing with the later Maya, but what you have to do is just delete them and just leave the one you need. Now, for the Turok engine itself, this map, this is what tells us what texture you're using, but for the Turok engine, it doesn't really need it. It really just needs this, right? So then now, in order for this to work, we need to rename this properly. Example 2, and then we'll need to hit save, and then we need to do the same thing here, right? And this is not a big deal if you're only doing one piece, but if you're like me and you're building a giant environment, you'll probably need to do this a bunch of times. And this is just a four-sided, this is just a six-sided cube. If you had a giant mesh, this files get pretty big and it's hard to find things. So the next thing is to duplicate that because it's looking for the node, right? And this is a part I don't understand, but I just know that you have to have this. So demo piece that obj, right? So these are the three files that you can now take to Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and you can either put them here on the root folder, or what I've been doing is I made a temp folder and just put them right there. Right now, if I were to do this though, it wouldn't work because I don't have a material called sample 2. You know, so this is probably not gonna work at all, right? So I'm gonna delete that. So now, so that's the long way, right? The easy way is this. Um, so here I have like a kit, that I've been kind of playing with just to be able to take into the engine. With the engine uses several like tile pieces and stuff. So what I did was I created the tiles, and for example, this tile here is called floor 2 by 3, and uh, my exporter will basically grab your mesh and export it out, and it will remember where it was. So I don't even have to put this at the origin, and I don't, and also it will triangulate it as well as delete the history. So, for example, if I just run this, I have my script is right here. It's on the shelf, right? So now if I go look in the Turok modem folder under hold on, let me make this. I forgot to mention. So the way this works is I have a scene. This scene, I can save that scene anywhere. And then when I run the script, it basically spits out the OBJ to the same folder where that scene is saved. And the thing is that what it's doing is duplicating the the files that were generated. So if we look in here, for example, see, it's got all these materials. And if we look in the OBJ, one thing you can do if you really insist to do this by hand, which I don't see why you would with this scripter, with this plugin. If you use search and you look for use MTL, you can find all the entries, right? So so these are the originals, and now if you look at the new ones, see, it's all clean and nice. And now if you look at the custom OBJ and use MTL, this has the proper names, right? So now my script also grabbed these two files and already sent them over to temp. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. It sent them over to the script folder. I mean to the install folder, and it renamed them properly, and it even created a duplicate of the MTL, so you don't have to do any of that, right? So then if you go ahead and launch the engine, you know, when the exporter finish exporting the piece, it also copies the path to the clipboard. So for example, now that I have the engine open, all I have to do is hit Control V. Well, for some reason I created a bunch of them, but we just gotta get rid of all that. So now I don't even have to type it anymore, and I just hit enter. And we just have to wait. Right, so now it finished compiling, so I just quit. And now if I go to the same folder, to the temp folder, I should have a bin. In this, I do manually move it to models. And I put it there. So now if I launch the editor, and you go to model picker, floor 2x3, you'll see that this guy lives happy in there. So in the same way, I was able to export a mesh that uses two materials and is referencing the same material, but it has different variations, right? Which is something that I couldn't do before because I was running into all kinds of problems trying to rename the stupid materials, right? So so that so my scripter, I'm sorry, I keep saying scripter. My script will basically grab anything selected and look for how many materials it's using, and it will spit out the proper files for you, and that way you can just plug and play without having to worry much about doing things, right? And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.